Hi, my name's Kate Margolis. I am the design lead at Thirdfort, and today I'm going to be talking to you about using quantitative and qualitative data to influence successful decision making. A little bit about me. I started my career in advertising in the traditional sense. I had a creative director who didn't use a computer, and I spent my first job turning scamps into digital artworks. So for me, my first job was like finishing school. It taught me a lot about design that university didn't. And around this time was when the first iPhone came out. And it wasn't too long before my print days were over. And I was getting my hands on designing apps and websites. Understanding user behavior has always underpinned everything that I've built, and gaining experience across lots of different industries has meant that I can gather different types of collecting methods and user insight to be able to influence and evolve new or existing products going forward. I now find myself as Thirdfort's design lead, helping a fast-paced team who are a growing tech startup navigate their way through their apps and portals, learning from their users how to better create meaningful and engaging experiences. So, who are Thirdfort? Well, having a new house is great, right? Getting a new house isn't. It's a big life, scary moment and can be complicated for all of us in the process. So Thirdfort are on a mission to remove risk so people can move fearlessly. We use tech, design, and data to shut out the bad guys and make dealing with clients secure and friction-free for lawyers and professional services across the property sector. And why do we exist? It's simple. We want to dramatically reduce risk for lawyers, estate agents, and others when dealing with clients, and take the stress out of moving house. Our job is to protect home movers and their professional services from fraud and make it super easy too. We do this by bringing together best-in-class tech and can-do support to keep property transactions safe and friction-free. So how do we think about data at Thirdfort? Today, it's difficult not to hear about big data and data-driven decision-making. We're all talking about this at the moment. The term alone has become something of a buzzword in business recently, and for a very good reason. We're all wondering how we best use qualitative and quantitative data, or even a mix of both, to influence the work and products that we're creating. Big data allows us to leverage endless digital insights that are now available at our fingertips and embrace the power of data-driven business intelligence to make more informed decisions that are better for business growth and evolution, but also to create a considerably better experience for our end users. But let's take it back a little bit and ask, what is qualitative data? Well, it's the descriptive and conceptual findings collected through questionnaires, user interviews, or even observation. It's raw, it's messy, it can be super emotive, and it's also totally subjective. What is quantitative data? Well, quantitative data is almost the opposite. It's data that expresses a certain quantity, amount, or range. It's measurable, it's specific, and it's surely quantifiable. And these come in kind of examples of surveys and experiments such as A/B tests or customer reviews. Quantitative data is really good at telling you what is happening or what has happened, how your products and services are being used, and what people's attitudes and opinions are about the things that they're using. Basically, it tells you what's going really well and what isn't, but it doesn't tell you why. That's where the qualitative data comes in. You can use your qualitative user research techniques to understand your users and why they are behaving the way that they do. Thinking about the efficiency and effectiveness is really being able to zoom in and out, look at the bigger picture as well as the detail, and go back and forth to create that holistic view of what's going on. So the macro might be understanding the landscape, the context your users are living and working in, the context that they're using the product or service in, what their needs are, what their goals are, what is helping them, and what are the barriers to achieving their goals. The micro can zoom right down to does this interaction even work on this component? Is it even accessible? Do people understand it? Can they use it? And you need to iteratively go back and forth through to make sure that you're doing the right thing and that you're doing the thing right. So, how do you move through data successfully? You need to define your objectives. Using data to drive your decisions can be rendered pointless if you're not sure which objectives you are working towards. Defining objectives allows you to get the most out of the data that you've gathered, which allows you to avoid following any hype rather than solely focusing on the unique needs and requirements of the business users. A lot of the work that we do in our mind is also not done consciously, which can make it sometimes difficult to check the logic that we use during the decision-making process. In some cases, you might even find that you end up seeing that you want what you want to see from the data rather than what's actually in front of you. It's always important in this process to constantly check back against the goals you are trying to achieve to make sure the data you are gathering is relevant. Also, everybody is biased in some way or another, but being aware that you might have certain biases can keep them in your conscious mind during the decision-making process and help you to limit the impact that they have on the overall result. Quantitative research provides evidence and predictions. Qualitative research provides context and explanations. So which one's best for you? Well, that depends on the questions you need answering. Gather the right data. When you start talking about qualitative and quantitative data, everyone has an opinion. Which one is better? There are those who prefer to leverage one over the other, but for me, it's striking a fine balance between the both. Gathering the right data is crucial to the analytical process. Firstly, data collection should begin as early as possible, regardless of how new your business is. This helps avoid situations where you're relying too heavily on instinct and missing out on making the best decisions that are backed up by the numbers and emotions. For example, I've worked on lots of products that have tied user journeys up in knots because neglecting gathering data has resulted in the product and subsequently the product roadmap being influenced by technical limitations. The end user has been disregarded and the product has become overly complex due to stakeholder opinions or assumptions. By striking that balance between the two data streams is not easy. In the past, combining qualitative and quantitative research approaches has been difficult and costly. And while there are still some areas where face-to-face qualitative research is the only answer, more and more challenges can benefit from bringing the two methodologies together through online platforms that deliver the what and the why together in one place. Bringing qualitative and quantitative market research together through one unified online platform enables you to gain that holistic picture. It means you can have a multi-stage discussion where you can validate hypotheses, gain an understanding of it, then widen your scope to get statistical data before testing a solution further. This creates a virtuous circle, all in the same system and all with the same audience. This goes back to what you have to do and what you need. These are questions you can ask before you do some original research, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. There are extremely useful methodologies you can use to help your team decide what data you should really be gathering. As UX researcher Stephanie Marsh demonstrates, looking at the design and development lifecycle makes it easier to see which methods is best for the type of questions we need to answer at each stage, whether it's discovering, defining, developing, or even delivering. From this, we can see that in each situation, we can have a combination of quantitative and qualitative and a combination of attitudinal and behavioral data. Get stakeholder buy-in. Those who are new to UX and those who are skeptical of it often aren't comfortable with small numbers in qualitative research and data. For example, making design decisions after observing 5 people's behavior in a lab. Although the data shows that this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, getting quantitative data to back it up can really help your team and stakeholders on a journey to trusting the qualitative. It's not just about appeasing people, but we'll later see that combining quant and qual can help with leaner, more efficient working and better decision making, and also aid with getting in stakeholder buy-in for not only the objective, but for research in general. Best practices. Create roadmaps that are a problem or area of interest focused rather than solution focused, and incorporate research and data gathering that is being done into the product roadmap. Know what you need to measure and then work with your quants and devs to properly set it up. Don't assume that it's already being tracked. How you communicate the data is also super important, and that will depend on what data you've gathered and at what level and who the audience is, and also stored in different ways. Collecting the data is very key to this entire process. Start with clear user needs and public benefits. Use data and tools which have the minimum intrusion necessary. Remember, we are using people's time and we must respect that. Create robust data science models, be alert to public perceptions, be as open and accountable as possible, and keep that data secure. Let's take a look at a few examples that illustrate the power of mixed methods. Example 1, Google Analytics and user interviews. Google Analytics offers a wealth of quantitative data, such as how many people visited your site, how they got there, and how long they stayed. The information is incredibly helpful and extremely detailed, but without thoughtful interpretation, it's useless. In many cases, Google Analytics quantitative data will help you pinpoint exactly where your problem lies, but only qualitative data can identify the cause of the issue. Why is that text box causing people to leave your site? Is the field too difficult to fill out? You'll obtain this information through interviews, co-browsing sessions, or feedback tools. Example 2, social media and stats and a community engagement. The value of social media is often difficult to quantify. Online retailers can use direct link tracking, but for service providers, tracking sales from social media is not so cut and dry. Social media insight tools that measure clicks, engagement rates, and the number of followers reveal important statistics about your community. To discover which types of posts resonate most with your audience, you'll need to do some qualitative investigation, such as reading and studying comments, analyzing sentiment, and making observations over a long period of time. Example 3, marketing events and surveys. The success of marketing events is often judged by hard data, such as the number of attendees or sales made during an event. But qualitative research is great for putting a face to a number. By encouraging attendees to fill out a survey, you can collect valuable information about attendees, such as demographic info, product feedback, and detailed impressions of the event. A great example of qualitative and quantitative data together to influence stakeholder decisions on a core business objectives was while I was working for a large car rental company across Europe. The objective was to empower users to feel part of the rental club and benefit from upgrading their rentals to an exclusive new and just on the market fleet of cars. Their marketing team had spent a lot of time internally creating what they felt was the perfect subscription membership for car rentals. Their value proposition was based purely on creating a membership that benefited the company and a hunch that users would feel that they would want to be part of an exclusive club. The company spent time and money creating elaborate marketing materials so that the users registered interest online. They would receive a metal card in the post with their membership number and some wine vouchers that could persuade them to sign up by calling a phone number. The marketing team littered the vehicle results page with these sign-up banners and call to actions to fill in details to receive this postal extravaganza with little to no strategy or thought for the user, and therefore it gained no traction. Their conversion rate was below 3%, and they just couldn't understand how or why no one was signing up. Their solution was to increase the amount of banners by twofold and change the color of the banner to something eye-catching. in the thinking that nobody was seeing them on the page. The reality was quite the opposite. Having studied the quantitative data, it was obvious, thanks to tools such as Hotjar and Google Analytics, that users were seeing the banners, hovering over them, clicking them, but not bothering to register their interest. Was it the copy? Was it the color? How could users not possibly want to sign up and be in the club? So with this in mind, we turned to the why, the qualitative research, and brought in 10 users to the lab to take them through the user journey and work out really what was going on. Even within the first 2 users, it became exceptionally obvious why they weren't converting. There are just so many banners. I have no idea why I'd want a membership. Another one, I just assumed it was some marketing ploy to get my details and send me rubbish. I don't need another membership to something that I won't use. A lot of the work and research we did around membership allowed us to feed back to the company that the membership offered no real value to the end user, and this was the reason for the lack of sign-up during the process. We went back to the beginning, redefined the value proposition, having spoken to existing car rental users about what they would want to benefit from signing up, and also the way they signed up. They didn't feel the need to have a physical card because they couldn't use it for anything. Instead, they wanted to sign up online, access their membership via a digital wallet, and use it to collect points that would lead to free upgrades and money off. The qualitative and quantitative data in this instance gave the company the insight to change the membership value proposition to something that users would want to use. And since then, they've seen a 65% conversion of membership when users were asked once at payment during the vehicle results journey. So how does using quantitative and qualitative data influence successful decision-making? Today, data-driven business decisions are more important than ever. And while sometimes it's best to go with your gut, a huge majority of business decisions need to be based on a combination of facts, figures, observations, understanding, and metrics that tie in with your goals and aims. Now, the key to successful qualitative and quantitative research is iteration. That doesn't mean doing the same thing again and again. It means continually returning to your questions, methods, and data to spark new ideas and insights that will transform your approach to your research and to be a successful influencer who creates rather than destroys. UX researchers and designers need to responsibly gather, interpret, and weigh the value of quant and qual user data, often employing both methods to determine what new features should be introduced to who and when. What are some of these key takeaways then? Big data allows us to leverage endless digital insights. Remember that the macro might be understanding the landscape, but the micro can zoom right down to the interaction. Make sure to define your objectives first to get the most out of the data. Communicate the what and why you are gathering and get your team involved so they understand the process. This helps with stakeholder buy-in. And don't be afraid to mix methodologies. My final thought, whatever you do it iteratively. Create, test, iterate, repeat. Thanks so much.